I recently went to a taping of that 90s show, and I'm going to share my experience. I already did my primer and my Lumify. How did we get tickets? My friend put in for them on 1iota. That's the letter 1iota. It's a site you could go to and you can put in for lots of different TV shows. So she did this months ago and got me a ticket without even telling me. And she got emailed like months and months later and was like, hey, are you still interested? And so she took the tickets and was like, hey, do you want to go? And I was like, sure. So me, her, and her daughter went. So all the information told us that we needed to meet at the Hollywood Cemetery to park, and they would be shuttling us over to the studios. With anything like this, just know that there is a whole lot of waiting around. It's not like super fast unless you're watching like something that's taped live. That's a different story. We were told it was going to be a like 4:30 taping start time. It ended up being 5 o'clock exactly, which is what they had on the program. Speaking of the program, 5 p.m. start time. We'll talk more about this later. So I was telling my friend, I was like, if we're going all the way up to LA, we should also do something else fun while we're up there. Like maybe we go get dinner after, or maybe we go to coffee after or before. So we were just chatting all about it, and we didn't really know the timing of the taping and how long it would take. They just didn't give you any of that information. And so I'm so glad that we didn't plan to do anything after. So we decided on coffee beforehand because there's a new coffee shop in West Hollywood that we've been wanting to go to called Fangirl Cafe. I think it opened only 3 months ago, but they are a cafe with really good coffee, really good food. It was 2 miles from where we needed to be at the cemetery. So we're like, oh, we're definitely going. But I made a whole video on the coffee shop already on my TikTok. You can go check out for more information. So we go to park in the Hollywood Cemetery, which is so cool, by the way. They do movies there as well. And I've always tried to go to one. I used to live in LA for 10 years. And for some reason, every time I tried to go, it just like never worked out. So I've never been. And it's a freaking cool cemetery. Like I want to go back and walk around. And while we were there, headed to our parking spot, there was definitely something filming and we tried to figure out what it was, but we never did. So we park. And unfortunately, we were not allowed to bring our phones in at all. We had to leave them in the car. So the only footage I have is what you saw, because after that, I left my phone in the car. So 1iota had a really cool team of people working. They were all so very nice. And they had us just like gather up in a line and they checked our tickets, which they could do from their phones. Because again, we didn't have our phones. And then they just took us on a shuttle, probably 12 people at a time, and took us over to Bronson Studios, Sunset Bronson Studios, which funny story, on the way to the studio while we're in the shuttle, there was a school. And I think it was a junior high school, the Hollywood one. And it was jam-packed of cars and parents picking up their kids and the school getting out. And I'm like, this is terrible timing for taking us to the studio. And not to mention, it was chaos because there was not a crossing guard to be seen. And I think that I have seen many crossing guards in my day where I'm like, I don't think they need to be there. Or what are they doing? They're just sitting like there's nothing going on. Even when there's kids coming out, it's like not an overwhelming amount of kids. This was an overwhelming amount of kids. It was so insane. And I was like, these kids are going to get hit. There's kids running in front of our van. Like what? There was a mom literally parked in the middle of the street waving her kid while our van was approaching. I'm like, this mother is asking her kid to run across the street. It was so crazy. And then right over the walkie-talkies that the driver had, he said something about like, what is this, like a war zone or something? He said something so funny because it was exactly what we were all thinking. So it was just fun to hear them like van to van communicating about the chaos. So we walk through the guard gate at the studio and we go maybe like 30 feet up or so, and we're in the middle of this like hallway and there's like stuff going on all around us. It's a little bit of a smaller studio, I'd say, hence why we had to park off lot. I just don't think they have a big parking lot on their studio. So they just had us waiting in this like kind of outdoor hallway area in between two buildings. And we were there for quite a while and they were taking people on bathroom runs during that time. And I went on one of the last bathroom runs that they had that was like way around a corner. So I knew where the bathroom was, which will come in later. So keep in mind that none of us have our phones. There's a few people with watches on, but that's it. So no one had any idea what time it was. We were just like all going with the wind. I joked that I was like, I think if you stick your hand up, each finger is like a half hour or an hour before sun is supposed to set when you compare it to the sun. Anyways, I was making jokes like if you were in the wilderness or something, but we had no idea what time it is. And I think we roughly went into the actual studio at 4:30 and then taping did begin at 5. So we get inside the studio. It's so cool to be like on a sound stage. So they sit us down and we ended up in the back row. And it was only like, I don't even know, 7 rows or something back. We were in the back row, which I really appreciated because we were there for so long. Like I was able to stand up and stretch and not worry about people behind me. And I still had like such a good view of the stage and what was going on. And so right in front of me is that 90s show stage, which is technically also that 70s show stage. So if you're me and you're looking at the stage, to my right was the living room area. To the left was the kitchen area that they had blocked off. So we couldn't see something that was going on that happened the episode before. Eventually came down. To the left of that was the outdoor garage area with the car and everything and the garage door. Then to the left of that was, of course, the basement. And then to the left of that, which was way far over, was like the bedroom areas. So fun fact at a live taping is that they don't tape the entire show in one day. They tape parts of the show live in front of the studio audience. And then they tape part of the show at a different time because they're in different areas or scenes just don't permit to have an actual live audience. But for the audience reactions, they are actually live. We watched back what they pre-filmed and we reacted to it. So the whole thing really does have a whole live audience. But kind of fun for us, there were some guest stars, but the most fun part was the director of the night was Laura Prepon. And if you don't know who that is, she was Donna on that 70s show. So we got to watch her direct. We got to watch her call action. Like it was so fun. And she was so cute and so sweet. I would say for every scene that we watched, they did each one a minimum of 3 times. Usually it was more, but what was fun is to watch them call cut, everyone go chaos and mingle and change and whatever. And the writers telling the actors to like, it was just like a whole thing going on in front of you. And then they would silence and start the scene again. And then it would be tweaked in a little bit of a fun way that you could see right in front of your eyes. You're like, oh, that was a different choice. Like it was fun to see how it can change and how it could be. Like if you were just going to go with that one take, that's it. But they give themselves multiple takes to choose from for the editors. And I think that was really cool to just see that process. We also had, I'm going to call him like a handler. He's like a crowd guy. His name was Roger. He was a very nice guy. He knows what he's doing. He's been in this particular business forever. And so he's with you from beginning to end of taping and he is entertaining you in between when they're not shooting and we're not watching them. So he's having us ask questions and he's asking people about their lives and, he's just entertaining us so we're not bored. But he loved us. He was calling us OC. Hey, OC. It was just funny. It just made us laugh. And, that's his job is to make us have fun. But we were there forever. I didn't realize actually how long it was going to be. I was expecting to be home by a late dinner time. They started filming at 5. We weren't out of there till 10:30-ish. And keep in mind, we got in line at 2:30 at the cemetery. That's a full-on work day. So that's something to keep in mind if you're looking to do this, is how long a show taping is. If you're going to do something that's more of a live thing, it's going to be better and shorter. But man, I didn't realize how long we were going to be there. It was a very long day and you're not getting paid. But keep in mind that because you're not getting paid, they are actually treating you very well. And at one point they did hand out sandwiches, a Rice Krispie treat, and some water because we obviously worked through dinner and I was getting pretty hungry. I was like, how am I going to survive? And then that came out and I was like, thank goodness. But if I had to rate the sandwich, it'd be like a 2 out of 10. It wasn't great. It was a turkey and tomato and it didn't have any like condiments. It was dry. I think they were hoping that the tomato would help, but in my opinion, it just was a terrible sandwich. But I was so hungry. I was like, I'm going to eat anything at this point. Another cool thing that happened during the taping though was that actually quite a few actors talked to us through Roger. Roger would give them the mic and they would tell us a story or give us like a history on how they got into acting, whatever. And so that was kind of cool to hear from them. And at one point, Laura also talked to us as the director and thanked us for being there. And also Kitty, what's her real name? I don't know, but Kitty from the show, she talked to us and she was like the sweetest, so freaking sweet. And she just was just like so thankful for the crowd to being there and that the fans of the show that love it and keep it going. Like it was a heart melter for sure. And so we were getting to the end of the taping, like it was coming to an end. You could tell we were getting to the very end of the show. And the Roger guy kept on joking about autographs. Like, I'm going to get half the crowd autographs. So which half is louder, blah, blah, blah. And that was all part of like keeping our energy up and whatever. But the very end of it, after all the competition we had of them yelling and us yelling, we all got to get autographs, which was a little bit chaotic because they just had us come to the front of the railing. And so the front of the railing and then the stage was down lower. So we're looking down on everything. And all the actors are kind of lined up on the railing down below. So they're looking up at us, they're reaching up to grab our program and to sign it with their Sharpies. They were prepared with Sharpies. And so pretty much everyone was there. I would say all the younger actors were to the left and all the older actors were to the right. And I kind of veered to the right because that's who I knew I watched on that 70s show and now the 90s show. So they were a little bit more important to me. The younger kids, I'm like, oh, I'm not really sure who you are yet. So I don't know if I care so much. I'd rather get like their autographs. So I was hold on, let me finish my mascara. And I've never had to do this before, but go to part 2. I have a little bit of tea on the autograph session.